right, my friends, welcome back to the comeback journey. I have my friend Mark Holman here with me. We met in this group called the Level Up Collective, and he's a super cool guy, and I'm excited to get to know more about him. You want to introduce yourself, give a little backstory?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mark. Like he said, we met in the Level Up Collective. This is my first podcast I've ever been on, so
Yeah.
a little tiny bit nervous, but it's just a conversation between you and me, so we'll get through it. Backstory. So born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, so deep south. Where should I go from here?
I feel like you don't have like a super strong accent for being raised down there.
Yeah, I mean, I attribute that to my parents not really truly being from there. They're from Baltimore and Connecticut. Okay. So they're kind of Yankees, and then they came down to New Orleans because my dad got a job at a nuclear power plant. So smart dude. And then so they didn't really assimilate into the like whole New Orleans culture and everything. So I was like born and raised in New Orleans, but if like you compare me to other like people who their whole family's been born and raised in New Orleans, it's like a little bit different. Especially there's like super Cajun people that are just you hear them talk and it's like, what is that English? Like they sound pretty gnarly. It's funny. But I mean, so there's two parts of the city in New Orleans. There's the West Bank, which is one side of the river, and then the other side, which is like where the city is. And like where I went to school in middle school, I started on the West Bank, and so I was like in the suburbs, a little bit out of New Orleans, and then went to middle school, 6th grade on the other side. And so when I did that, I had my mind was blown. Like, this is the city that I live in. Like, I was exposed to all the cool things about New Orleans. I didn't realize that it had all this culture and all these cool things on the other side of the river because I never really went over there. And so I went full into the whole New Orleans culture and like was obsessed with living uptown and like all the old buildings and just like hanging out up there as much as possible.
Yeah, great. I feel like there's a lot of history down there. It's not like for me, I live in San Diego. Like, there's not a whole lot of like old buildings. You know, like it's a relatively new state. You know, yeah. So like we talked about a little bit ago. Like, I went out to North Carolina last year, and like I visited like Chicago and New York, and like there's so much more history and right. Like cool buildings and art and all kinds of stuff the farther east you go in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But yeah, my house, which I'm not in currently, I'm in my parents' house in South Carolina, but my apartment that I live in is in the Garden District, and that's like one of the older parts, and it's all these like super nice like huge houses, and I live in there's 3 apartments in my house, but I'm pretty sure the house was probably made like early 1900s, maybe even into the 1800s, late 1800s.
Damn, that's cool.
Maybe even later than that, maybe like mid 1800s or something. Because I think the city, I want to say 1812 is when the city was established.
Where you currently live?
Yeah.
Okay.
In New Orleans.
Oh, in New Orleans. Okay, gotcha.
Like one of the oldest cities, which is cool. So there's all this cool stuff going on.
Yeah. So do you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I've got one brother, older brother by about 4 years, and he kind of had similar path to me, like starting life out on the West Bank and then going to high school on the other side. And I don't feel like he really embraced it as much as I did. He was kind of okay with the West Bank side and just keeping things the same and not really exploring that New Orleans side of things. But he, super smart dude. He was always like straight A's, top of the class. And like my dad, he's also a nuclear engineer. So they're both like two of the smartest people that I ever knew.
That's cool, man. To
Yeah.
have that in your family. I mean, it's got to trickle down to you a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm a smart dude. I'll give myself that, but like they're really good at what they do, and their their brains work a little bit different than mine. They're super like analytical, which I have a part of that in me, but I kind of attribute this to like me going, like I was talking about the other side of the river and like embracing that side. So that kind of took my personable skills and like my need and want to connect with other people's.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of helped that flourish. So I feel like I have a better grasp of that than my brother. It doesn't make me better or worse, but it's just like, that's how we're different. He's kind of very similar to my dad in like how analytical and like an engineer, right? Mm-hmm. You probably know some engineers. They're like a very specific type of person.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of more like my mom. She's like the more personable, social one. So
yeah. I think I'm like a solid mix of both my parents. Like, it's weird. Like, so I'm the middle child. I have a younger brother and an older brother, and like I definitely have a lot of traits from my mom, but like as far as like appearance and like a little bit of my personality is from my dad. Like my mom and my brothers are blonde hair, blue eyes, and I've got brown hair. Like way different, but
I got the plumber son joke, right?
Oh man. Yeah. So where did you go after New Orleans?
Yeah. So throughout my whole time in New Orleans, I was super big into soccer. I played like since I was 4, every weekend practice. I was the kid who like loved going to practice. And so did all that. High school, my senior year, I had my mom like film me and made like a highlight tape, send it off to colleges. And so I went to this private school in Philadelphia called Philadelphia University. I went up there, did a little tryout, played like the best I had ever played in my life. It was unbelievable. I was just this little like high school kid coming in and just bossing over college kids. So I got a scholarship to go there. So I went there. Really, really loved it. I was there for 2 years. And I chose that school because I wanted to play instead of like going to a D1 school, say like a Clemson or like NC State or like a school with a really big program that you could potentially not ever get on the field till like junior year or senior year. So I went to a smaller school just because I wanted to actually play. I didn't know if I could actually go professional or anything. So I was just going to play. And so freshman year went pretty well. I think probably starting maybe like after 5 games.
Your freshman year, you were starting.
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was a great experience. So just kept playing there. Also on weekends, like you're in college, so you're trying to stay disciplined because you're an athlete and you like have practice every day and games, but everyone dabbles in the like drinking and doing all that stuff. And I wasn't a stranger to any of that because I'm from New Orleans. So like I was doing that all through high school. So as people were exploring it, I was like, oh, this is, I've like been here, done all this. So, but it was still exciting and fun for me. So I kept, doing that. Mm-hmm. Sophomore year I wasn't as prolific. So I started like having a sophomore slump, as some of them say. And then kind of had this epiphany where it's kind of these limiting beliefs just came up really big. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to play professionally. So I should probably start thinking about like getting a real job. And so I was studying like an environmental science major at Philly U. And it was such a small major. By my sophomore year, I was the only one in the whole major. So it was
In
like
the entire school.
started in the entire school in that major. It was super small. It started with like 5 people, and then each year people dropped out, and then at the end I was the last one. And I remember having a conversation with my advisor, being like, "I'm sorry, I kind of want to transfer and go to another school." And so I transferred to LSU back in Louisiana in Baton Rouge, and I started studying environmental engineering. So I was thinking like,
So you did follow like the engineer path a little bit.
yeah. So it's kind of funny. I was trying to resist it in the beginning and be like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing, which is like probably what I should have kept doing. But we'll get there. So then I do the engineering thing, and I had a realization about this fairly recently about how that wasn't really a decision I made for myself. I thought I was, but I was really making it for other people to please, like, say, my parents or just the external world, because being an engineer, that's a good profession. It's a good job. Like, to be a good employee, you get this job, you have this salary, and you just follow that path, right? The 9 to 5. So I like fell into that, and I thought I was doing the right thing, but turns out wasn't really for me. So down in LSU, and I have friends from growing up in New Orleans that go to LSU. A lot of people go to LSU after living in New Orleans. So I moved back in with 2 of my really good friends. And thinking about it now, it probably wasn't the best idea, because moving back in with them, I kind of just fell back into comfort. And like one of the main things that I wanted to do in college was kind of create new relationships and explore different things.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of stifled me, because it was easy to just go back to LSU and just hang out with my 2 friends and their friends and not really explore my own path and like try and make my own new friends, which I kind of did because we all had different classes. So I made friends within the classes, but nothing really too deep. So, and in that period at LSU, because I felt so stifled and just like what I was doing wasn't really what I wanted to do. So, and this again, I realized this after, I definitely was like depressed in that state. Just not really truly feeling like I enjoyed my classes. My like social life was just go to tailgates, get wasted, and stuff like that. So nothing really fulfilling. So I just was in that cycle for 3 years there of just not really feeling good about where I was headed or just my mental state, anything like that. So then finally graduated and got a job. Well, actually, I forget about this, but I graduated, got a job back in New Orleans, moved into an apartment, and then like maybe 2 weeks before I was supposed to start the job, they rescinded their offer because it was an environmental engineering job dealing with the oil industry. And so that was a period where oil was tanking and people were losing jobs. So they pulled the job. So I was just like, well, shit. I just like signed the lease on this house. But luckily it was just with my friend. So he was like, yeah, dude, you don't have a job. Like it's cool. You don't have to worry about it. So then got another job in Baton Rouge, back where LSU was, worked there. And most of my friends who I had made in Baton Rouge had left. So I don't have a good, I'm not a huge fan of Baton Rouge, let's just put it that way. But moved back there, started working, and
in a similar field to what you got your degree in.
Yeah, it's the same field. Yeah, environmental engineering. So it's just, and I said a little bit of that about that in the like my intro in the Level Up Collective.
Yeah.
But it was for, and like the whole reason I did environmental engineering, because like I grew up playing soccer. I was always outside. I love the outdoors, and I had this interest in sustainability. And then so I was like, oh, engineering, environmental. Yeah, it's perfect. I can help the world. But what I was actually doing was the opposite. I was working for chemical plants, oil refineries, helping them get permits so they could pollute more, and like finding loopholes so they could get out of and just like pollute more and make more money, which was disconnect between why I had gotten into it. So
yeah,
that was weighing on me, and just I wasn't a huge fan of sitting at a desk for the whole day, just at a computer, just typing away. And I was really isolated because I had an office, which, I mean, going into the workforce, you're like, oh, I get an office. That's awesome. I don't have to be in cubicles. But I was so isolated, and our team was so small, and they were all the way across the hall. There would be days where I would go into work, not talk to anyone the whole day, go home, cook my dinner or whatever. And I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, so I lived alone. So there would be days where I literally had no contact with any other human. Like I would walk by them and see them, but there would be days where I just didn't talk to anyone, and it was terrible. And I'm an introvert, so I like respect that, but human beings, in my opinion, they all have that need to connect. Yeah. And so I wasn't getting that for like most days. Sure, you'd have like emails and stuff like that, but it's different.
Yeah.
And so that was just, those were dark days for me. And I didn't really have that many friends in Baton Rouge. Some weekends I would come back to New Orleans and hang out with my friends there. But that wasn't, it's a short drive. It's an hour and a half, but I wasn't doing that all the time. And so this is the period where I'm kind of like, okay, this sucks. I need to start doing something about it. So I kind of got into self-development, and because I really wanted to push myself socially. I'd always identified as a shy person, and like there's this podcast called The Art of Charm. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
It's
I'm about to write this down though.
It's developed into something bigger, but it was like back in the day, like how to pick up girls and stuff like that, and just like how to be confident. And so I was like listening to these podcasts, and then I would like, okay, I don't have any friends here, so I'm just going to go to a random bar and like try and meet people. And so I did that a few times. I'd walk up to the bar and I'd like sit there, and then I maybe would look over and like say something to them, the person next to me. And then for the whole hour, I just sit there drinking, and I never went up to anyone or never talked to anyone. So like I had all these podcasts that I was listening to get all hyped up and be like, all right, this is what I'm going to say. But I never like put myself in the chance to actually do it because I was too scared. I was too nervous of like, oh, what if I like go up and they hate me, or they don't like me, or they think I'm ugly or shit like that.
Definitely relate to that.
Yeah. And so that was like the start of me trying to create a better life for myself. It didn't really go as I planned, but it was a jump start that I needed to get to where I am today. So then so I was doing that for a while, wasn't really successful. One of the main guys from the New Orleans office came into Baton Rouge, and was saying that they were hiring people. And so I was like, oh, I would love to move back to New Orleans and do the same job because I have people there. I would enjoy my time way much more in New Orleans. So that all happened. Got transferred to New Orleans, was working with one of my good friends from high school. We were like a pretty good team. So that was great. So that part got better. Like my social life got better because I had friends and I was able to do things with them. I had connections. I was working with one of my good friends. So every single day I'd have a conversation with her. So that was great. But the work that I was doing still wasn't what I wanted to do. There was still that internal conflict of wanting to help the world, but not. And then sitting at a desk for the majority of the day. So that was still weighing on me. It wasn't until, I don't really know what the catalyst was, but I was like, fuck it, I'm going to start this Instagram called Mark Holman Fitness, and then just start giving people, because I was like really, throughout this whole time, I got really into lifting, and I've had fitness goals, but I wasn't ever really able to achieve them. But I felt like I was better educated than the majority of people because I had spent all this time trying to figure things out. Mm-hmm. So I created that Instagram, started like sharing fitness stuff, fitness advice. And then what it turned into is just like a journal for my thoughts and feelings. So I was just sharing all this, like all these struggles that I was having. And it was like an amazing feeling to write something that you've kept inside for so long, to just put it out there and share it and be like, this is me here. This is what I'm struggling with. Like, take it or leave it. Like, think I'm an idiot or love it. It doesn't matter. I was just doing it. And it just felt amazing to finally come out of my shell a little bit and just to share a little bit more of myself and just, put myself out there.
When did you start that Instagram? Like, how long has it been running for?
I think maybe 2017.
Okay. So a decent amount of time.
Yeah, decent amount of time. This phone's ringing. Just let it ring.
It happens to me too, bro. You guys have a landline?
Yeah, it's the landline.
Yeah, still too, bro. It rings sometimes. It's all right.
And they're here. Started the Instagram, started sharing more of myself, and just for like full on going into this self-development journey of becoming a better human and reading all these books, and just my main thing was just being vulnerable. And that allowed me to connect with other people and be like, yo, I would have these same feelings. And it was all about like me not feeling fulfilled in my job and wanting something else, and my like journey through that. And then one of my favorite posts that I've ever done is like the day I quit my job. So I finally get to, well, there's a lot of things before that. I jumped ahead a little bit too far. So bring it back. So getting to maybe like 6-ish months of doing the Instagram, I get this, someone likes my photo, and I'm like, who's this motherfucker? And I look at his posts, and I remember the post, it's like a post of tacos or something, and it talks about like the whole, if it fits your macros, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool, and then didn't follow him, then like went about my own thing, and then somehow it was always in the back of my mind, like, who is this guy? Like, and I go check him out more, and then I'm like, oh, this stuff's pretty cool, and then followed him, and then just started consuming all of what he was talking about, and I was like, oh yeah, this stuff really resonates. Like, he's kind of talking about stuff that I've been working through. And then so I reached out to work with him, and if you haven't realized this by now, Jay Griff is the dude. Yeah. Reached out to work with him just with basic fitness coaching, because throughout this whole time I had the whole like, I want a 6-pack, I want to be really cut, but I was like yo-yoing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was eating so little food, and it sucked. So I was like, finally hit the point where I have to do something about this. I have this shitty job that I don't like. I'm going to try and actually accomplish this. So have him helping me. Eventually got to my goal, and then realized like, okay, this is cool, but it's not really what I really want. And then the whole time I've been like interested in the MBS, because I was like, my main thing that I wanted from that was like, I want to know everything about training and like how to create the best training program for me and then potentially other people. Because when I started the Instagram, I was thinking like maybe I could do like a fitness thing. I like started wanting to be a blogger, and like I started following all these things about blogging and making money. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to be a blogger who makes six figures. So I went down that whole rabbit hole and then found like all these online fitness coaches and like personal trainers. So I was like, oh, wait, that actually sounds a lot cooler because you can like work with people and like really help them. So then doing that whole thing, I think, yeah, I'd say it. So I did MBS after I got from Europe. After I quit
Jeremy's Mind, Body, Soul.
Yeah.
Mastery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Changed my life. But before that, and I was having all these realizations while working with him, just because I didn't have to think about like what I was doing for fitness. So that energy that I was using for that could go other places, like how to get out of this shitty job that I don't want to do anymore. And so I just was able to move through that and get some clarity around what I needed to do. So like hit my fitness goal, and then I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, this is happening. I'm quitting this job and I'm going to go to Europe, and I'm just going to do it because it's something that I feel that I need to do. And like, that was like one of the first major things that I was really doing for myself, for me, instead of living like my life for other people and for their satisfaction, to please them. So quit my job. After I got off the phone call, when I put my 2 weeks in, I felt like so much weight lifted off my shoulders. It was I'll never forget that feeling. It's one of the most amazing feelings ever.
Dude, so I did something similar. Like I worked at Costco for like 2.5 years, and I was like, at first I was like trying to like climb the ladder and like get into management, because you can make like a solid amount of money working at Costco and like paid vacation and 401k. And I quit the end of December, and I went in like one day like before this to talk with the warehouse manager about like, what do I need to do to like progress in this company? Like, what would you recommend? You know, and we had like this hour-long meeting about like a plan of attack for me to start like climbing the ladder. And then I went in a week later and I was like, here's my 2-week notice. Yeah. And they were like, what is going on? You were just, you know, and I was like, it's not the purpose, you know?
Yeah. So you just had that realization. You're like, actually, no.
Yeah, exactly that.
Cool. What caused you, was there anything that you're like triggered that?
Dude, so there was a few things. Like I had applied for like 5 or 6 supervisor positions and got denied for all of them because they're like strict seniority at that company. And like, it doesn't matter how much experience you have, but like, if you've been with the company longer, you're going to get the job. And so regardless of like my skill set, I kept getting passed up for these opportunities. And I was like, that's when I went in and met with the warehouse manager, and she was like, gave me like this plan of like, you know, bounce around to these different departments and put in like another 2 years. And then once you have like a solid foundation, then start to move up. And I was like, do I want to spend another 2 years to potentially get a job that I don't even really want?
Right.
Just because it's like a safe job, like it's a secure job, you know? And I ran in like randomly one day. I was working and I ran into one of my friends from high school, and I hadn't seen him in years. And I was talking to him, and you know, like we follow each other on Instagram, and we were talking, and he was like, dude, you know, I really respect like what you're doing, you know, congrats on the sobriety and like changing your life and, you know, going in this new path, blah, blah, blah. And somewhere in the conversation, I told him, like, I'm not sure if I'm where I should be, you know? And he
Mhm.
looked at me and he's like looking around Costco and he was like, yeah, bro, it's not the purpose. And I was
Yeah.
like, bro, it's not the purpose. And it just like a light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my God, like it's not the purpose. And then I was like, I sat on it for like a little while, you know, because I didn't want to like make any hasty
Right.
decisions.
Yeah.
But that feeling kept building inside of me. And I was like, okay, like I can't ignore this any longer. And like I didn't have a backup plan. I like I was working two jobs, like at Costco, and I was also bartending.
Mhm.
And I just like went in and quit, and it like the feeling of relief was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's amazing.
It is quite amazing.
Just such a release.
So what happened after you quit your job?
So I had a few friends that were living in Costa Rica. So like week after I'm done with my job, flew down there and had this whole week long vacation hanging out with them. We went to like 3 different places in Costa Rica. It was pretty awesome. And then come back, and then about 2 weeks later is when I have planned to fly across the pond and stay over in Europe.
Across the
So
pond.
yeah, across the pond. And I was looking at all these workaways, which are you familiar with that?
No, what is?
So it's just like these places where it's a website you pay like $12 a month or a year to get access to messaging these places where they have essentially you go help them with whatever they need and they give you room and board. So I was looking at all these like yoga retreats to like have some like mindfulness aspect, things like yoga retreats and like nature communities or whatever, just all these random stuff in random places like Norway, Sweden, Italy, all over the place. So I reached out to a bunch, and then the only one that really stuck was this one in Sweden. It was um, it's like a eco retreat is what it was called. So it's like this, they hold retreats for people, and they have like this whole, it's like a hotel, but it's not a hotel. They have yurts, so people come stay like the weekend in their yurts, and then they also do these workshops. And the main dude practiced qigong, tai chi, and they had all been in these like cooperative communities, so they're all like eco-friendly, and then just the whole style of living was enticing to me. So fly over there, fly into Copenhagen, stay there for like a few days because I was like, I've always wanted to go to Copenhagen. If I'm going to Sweden, why not stop here, chill
Yeah.
for a bit? And then it was amazing. I love that place. It's great. Everyone's super tall though. I'm like 5'10". I was like, fuck, short. Um, so was in Copenhagen, went to Sweden, and lived there for a month in their thing. And they were actually closing down, so I like helped them close all the stuff down and move things to storage. But doing qigong every morning at like 7 a.m. was actually really cool experience. I'd never done anything like that, and the teacher was super mindful, I guess. He was like he was pretty zen, so I was like learning a lot from him.
Mhm.
And then they had other people. There was this French girl that was doing the same thing as me, so we became pretty good friends because we stayed in the house and they all had their other houses or their yurts, so we like bonded a lot, and she became one of my good friends there. But yeah, I had a lot of time to myself as well, as just to think about like, I'm here in Europe, I did this thing for myself, what's going to come next, or like how can I enjoy this fully,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to be as present as possible and just enjoy the moment, but also thinking like, well, what does come next? So I had some like realizations there what I wanted to do when I came back. And I had an idea when I left is like something with fitness, but then as I came back, I was like, okay, I know what I need to do. So then after Sweden, I just popped around, did the whole Euro trip thing. I went to, and it was getting cold too. It was in October, I think, which usually people said in October in Sweden is like rainy every day, but it was like the most beautiful weather ever. It only rained like 3 times.
In the
And it
month
was
that you were
usually
there?
just sunny, beautiful weather, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're gonna have a terrible time. It's gonna be raining," and it was beautiful. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was a great time there. Learned a lot about myself. Had a lot of time to do some introspection. So that was great. And then
What,
after,
yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, where did you go after that?
yeah, okay. So after that, so I'll just name off the city. So I went to Stockholm, and then I was like, it's cold as fuck. I need to go south. So I flew to Lisbon in Portugal. Then and I was staying like a day, 2 to 3 days in each city. So Lisbon, Sevilla, Spain, Granada, Malaga. Then I went to Barcelona. Then I went to Toulouse in France, Bordeaux, then up to Paris. And then from Paris flew to Naples and then chilled in Naples for like 5, 6 days because I was waiting for my parents. My brother and mom were going to meet me in Rome and we were going to do Italy together. So after Naples, did Rome, Florence, and Venice. And then at the time I was like, I've been over here for 2 months, all of myself. I'm exhausted. I'm like ready. I'm ready to go back home. Because at that point I like wasn't really enjoying it as much as I could have. And so I was like, I feel like I'm just here just to be here and I'm not fully enjoying it. So called it and flew back to Charlotte, which is where I'm currently at, which is where my parents live. Chilled here for a bit, then went back to New Orleans and was like, part 2 of life. Here we go. And so
you were out there for 2 months, like by yourself, with the exception of like when your mom and brother came to visit, but the rest of the time it was just by yourself traveling.
yeah, pretty much. Well, other than the month in Sweden, which when I was at the retreat,
Right.
but the whole month just like bopping around in hostels and Airbnbs, pretty much by myself.
That's awesome. I would love
Yeah,
to.
it was amazing, dude. I have all these amazing pictures. My favorite days were when I just walked around the city and just like took everything in. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't that like, I don't know. It's just the simple things that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, there was like 2 years ago I went to Chicago to visit a friend, and then like both my parents are from Illinois, so and my grandparents still live out there. So I went to Chicago for a few days and then went down to visit my grandparents. And when I was in Chicago, like my friend that I was staying with, she was working. She had just gotten a new job. So like she couldn't take any time off. And so I took an entire day and just like threw on my backpack and just walked around Chicago.
Right.
And it was amazing just to like chill and soak everything in, and just like absorb the culture and everything that the city that I've never like I've been to the airport, but I've never like immersed myself in it, so it was the best part of that trip was just like walking around and like exploring.
Yeah, I totally agree. When people ask me like, what was your favorite thing? And I'm like, I don't really know. It was just like waking up in this Airbnb in this lady's bedroom that I Airbnb'd and then just like her having breakfast for me and then me just walking through the whole city for the rest of the day. Just like super simple things. There's nothing that I can really be like, this was amazing. It was just the simple things that I really, really enjoyed. It was cool.
Yeah. So after that trip, you came back to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then
so it was probably like unemployed for a month trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Then I got a job at a gym, but I wasn't like a trainer or anything. I was just like positioning myself to be in that environment so that I could potentially get another job more focused on like interacting with people and being a trainer. But I was essentially just a janitor, so that sucked. Um, like going in the locker rooms, grabbing the towels, lots of like walking into that locker room and just seeing a bunch of naked old men. So not my ideal career path to be like. And then this whole time I'm like, I was an engineer. Now I'm like walking in this room, grabbing these towels and hanging out with all these naked men. It's like not ideal, but it was like part of the path that I had set out. So I did that for longer than I was expecting to. So probably like 5-ish months or something. And then I also picked up a job at a restaurant, which I really enjoyed. That was a lot of fun. It was like super stressful at first because it's like high pace, and I was a runner, so I'd be running food, bussing tables. Yeah. But the environment was like super cool. There's a bunch of college kids, like younger than me, but still like relatable, and it was a lot of fun. And then I eventually became a server there, which is also pretty awesome. Like interacting with people and just having that close knit, it's like family. Like it's an extra set of really good friends that you can bond with. Yeah, so that was priceless for me.
The majority of my work experience is like in restaurants, like bartending, serving, like every position really. But like you're right, it is like if you find a spot where like the majority of people are like on the same page and like real cool, like it is like a super tight knit group.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was like it was interesting because it was the first like few times that I was like, whoa, I'm excited to go to work because I get to work with these cool people and like have fun at work. Like, what the fuck is that? So it was like an interesting dynamic. And I was working there before the whole quarantine, but we'll see what happens when I go back. But I loved it. It was great. So I was doing that. Then throughout this whole time, I'm like studying for my personal training certification. Oh, wait, actually, this is when I did the MBS, right? And so that like set the stage for all this other growth to happen.
So you did the MBS, you got back from Europe?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So that was like 16 weeks when I got back, which like set the stage for everything else to come. And like got my mind right and like really in a good place after that. So yeah, those 2 jobs. Then I was studying for my personal training certification, got that, started working at Tulane, which is a university, their rec center. So I was a trainer there. Quit the JCC job, which was the janitor job, and then been doing the training at Riley Center. I still do that. And then also this new training job came up. It's like a much more private gym, just like small, but that came on my radar. So I did that. So I was doing the training at the Riley Center, training at this other studio, and then also working at the restaurant. So I was like,
you had 3 jobs?
Yeah, I had 3 jobs. And then I was also trying to do the online thing too. So I probably had 1 client through when I was doing all this. And I think I also did. Yeah. Just 1 client pretty much. So yeah, I was busy and not really making too much money. But I was like happier than where I was doing the engineering stuff. So for me, it was a win, but I still had all these other things that I wanted to do and all these goals. So I've been doing that for a while, and then this whole quarantine thing happened. And so all 3 of those jobs were no more. And so I was like, well, I could sit here on the sidelines and just like chill out and not do anything, or I can take this opportunity to really go for the online thing and like put all my resources into it, and just go for it. So I've been doing that for probably the past 2 weeks, just like trying to get this off the ground, trying to get more clients. I got 1 client the other day. He's doing good. So just hoping to continue the momentum and build off of that.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, this is like the time to capitalize on that route, you know, because if like there's not much else you can spend your time on, you know. Like, so like that's, I mean, similar. Like I was working as a manager at a restaurant prior to this, and the restaurant closed like 5-6 weeks ago, and I had it was like right after it closed, and I had signed up for like a course to get, but okay, so here's the thing. I quit Costco in December, and I was already working at this restaurant as a bartender. And then I took a management position there. And then I realized, like, when I was at Costco, it took a long time for like this feeling of like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, it took a long time for that feeling to build up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I quit. And then I got this job as a manager at this restaurant. And like, very quickly, this feeling was building that like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. And so I was already looking for like, to get into like a different industry, and then the restaurant closed, and I was like, sign from the universe, yes.
Yeah.
And so like within a week of it closing, I signed up for the Jeremy's Aligned Entrepreneur Mentorship Program.
Yeah.
And so I'm like a third of the way done with that right now. Okay, sweet. And I also signed up to get my real estate license, but I'm not like, I signed up for them like real close together. Like I signed up for the real estate thing first and then the mentorship program. And I realized that like, I can't fully devote to both of them at the same time.
Yeah. Right.
And so I literally decided this last night when I was journaling. I was like, I'm going to put the real estate thing on hold until like late summer. Because I have a year from like when I signed up for the course to take the state exam. And so that's like next March. And it's only a 12-week program. So
yeah, makes sense to do it closer to the test.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, you can take the test whenever.
Oh, okay.
You have a year to take the test. And so like, I decided last night, like, I'm just going to put it on hold so that I can like fully devote to one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I don't like, and I was like struggling with like, is this me avoiding my responsibilities? And, like,
yeah.
You know? And I just think like for me right now, like I'm not like quite to the point where I can like juggle two large things at the same time. Like I could like work a job where it doesn't like I could work the job that I had before, like being a manager. Like you might think it's like like a stressful job as a restaurant manager, but it's not really. Like I could do that and like one of the other things, no problem. But like two things that I'm like really trying to learn at the same time was like a little overwhelming. And so as of today, I'm just going to like stick with the mentorship program. And then when that's over, then go for the real estate license. And I don't want to be a real estate agent necessarily. Like I want to get like in on the investing side.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting my real estate license will like, I'll learn a lot, and it's only $500. So like, why not?
Oh shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah. At least I don't know what it is out there, but out here it's like a 12-week course. They like send you the books. And it's like $500 to do the course. So I thought it was way more than that. And when I found out it was that cheap, I was like, yeah, I'm doing it for sure.
Yeah. Cause that's knowledge you can take and just as a normal citizen,
right?
You can use to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your plan like moving forward? Like, what are your plans for the future?
Future plans, ideally, just be doing the online coaching business full time, and just fully devoting, because I enjoy it so much, like helping people not only like lose weight and build muscle, and like it's deeper than that. It's like helping them feel better about themselves, and then through them feeling better, crush other aspects of their life. And so that's like kind of, and I relate it back to me. Like I want to help people who I was back in the day, where I was like feeling stuck, wasn't getting anything like anywhere in my fitness goals, felt unfulfilled in my life. I want to give people like the same experience that I had, that I went through, because it was so transformational what I went through. Like I want to give that back to other people and just continually help more and more people as the time goes on.
That's cool, man. I also had like I've been like on and off with like my fitness goals, in I got sober in 2017, and when I got sober, I like was like full force in like the gym and like
Yeah.
hiking and running, and in 18 months I like looked the best that I had ever looked in my entire life. Like I had abs and like my bicep veins, which I was like a huge goal of mine for the longest time, to just like stand there and have that vein running down your arm, you know. And, I was like, dude, like this is awesome, you know, like, and I didn't lose a whole lot of weight. Like I think I lost like 20 pounds. Like I wasn't like overweight to begin with. I just like trimmed up a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And but once I hit that, I was like, okay, I don't really know what to do next, you know? So
Yeah.
my consistency with physical exercise has been like sporadic. Like it's been somewhat consistent, but like not where it was before, you know? So
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that now, like for the time being, like especially now with all the gyms closed, you know, like I do like home workouts 4 days a week. But like I don't have any weights or anything, so it's not like an extensive, like I'm not like kicking my ass every day, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's cool. That's like a good model to follow, I think, is like to help people where you were previously at, you know. You can like more relate to that.
Definitely. Yeah, and I've seen like talking to a lot of people, like, relating back to like what you said, you don't know where to go from there. That's like a lot of people's trouble, especially right now. Like gyms are closed. Before they just went to the gym, so they like now they're just stuck here. Like, oh, well, what do I do? And so not really having that idea, not having clarity of like what they need to do, I found is like a huge demotivator for people, and is making so many people just not do anything because they don't know what to do. So they can't do anything.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for some, like the current world state, you know. It's I like, I don't know, like I had it was weird for me because like I like things just kind of lined up. Like I moved back in with my mom like the second week of February, and then all of this started. So it was like perfect timing for me to get out of the apartment and like move back in with my mom. Like I didn't know it was going to happen like that, but it worked out perfectly. And then like I was unhappy at my job, and then the restaurant closed, and I was like, okay. So I never went into this with like, oh, this sucks. Like, you know, and I like understand it's like it's a terrible thing that's happening in the world right now, but like for me, it's been a huge blessing.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was like, because I had been putting off working on going online for so long. And so right when all this happened, I was like, well, I don't have any job. So the only thing I can do is like this and just go full on it as an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And if I did, I was like, someone was talking to me about this program. And they said to me, like, if you don't do anything right now to like create this business or create whatever you want, then you might as well just never do it. And I was like, damn. Savage, but like, you're right. Like I got to do this.
Yeah,
So I just like went full in.
that's great, man.
Yeah.
You wanna shout out your Instagram? I know you already did, but like,
Yeah. It's at Mark Holman Fitness.
cool.
Holman. That's how you spell my last name.
Holman.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's funny because a lot of people, like a lot of my friends, just call me that. They don't even call me Mark or anything. They're just Mark Holman Fitness. Kind of catchy. And people, it's actually funny because people have like, I've been walking in the park and people have been like, yo, I follow you. Like, I love your shit. It's like, that's awesome. Cool. It was like happened a few times. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Getting that recognition, bro. And that all that tells me is that like what you're doing is right and like people relate to it.
Yeah, it's just more affirmation of like you're doing it. You're on the right path.
Right.
Keep going on. Keep doing it.
For sure. Cool, man. This is a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah.
Was it as nerve-wracking as you thought it was going to be?
I mean, no. I mean, every time I start talking, like even on sales calls or any phone calls, I'll get nervous right in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then as I continue talking, it's like, it's all good. Yeah. So I'm chilling now.
All right, man. I'm going to wrap it up. This was cool. I want to do this again, like in a few months and like see where you're at.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right, my friends. Until next time, peace out.
Please. Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, no problem, man.